Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and today I'm really excited to share with you a two-part video on how I created this really fun night space star kind of galaxy background stargazing card. I want to show you very quickly the stamp set that I use. This is from Fawn. It's part of their brand new summer 2017 release. It is adorable. I love this stamp set. I think it's my favorite from the new release. So it's called Upon a Star. It has coordinating dies that you can purchase separately, and it's just absolutely adorable. So I'm breaking this particular video tutorial up into two parts. And in this first part today, I'm going to show you how I created this galaxy background for this card. It looks super complicated, but it's actually really easy. There's lots of different ways you can do this with lots of different mediums. For today's card, I chose to do this using Distress inks and water. So I basically watercolored with my Distress inks, and I will show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. To do this technique, you're going to need some watercolor paper. I am working with Canson XL watercolor paper. For this particular card, you can use really any type of watercolor paper that you have. I have had great results with the Canson, so that's why I'm using that today. And I'm using 5 different colors of Distress inks. And I forgot to grab one of them out, so let me grab this really quickly. All right, I am using Salty Ocean, Peacock Feathers, Chipped Sapphire, Seedless Preserves, and then some black soot. So those are the 5 colors that I am using. The other items that you're going to need to create the galaxy background is I used some white acrylic paint, and I also used some specialty paints, which I will get to in just a few moments. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is I have a cup here that I have filled with water, and I have a watercolor brush. This one just happens to be a very cheap one that I got from Michael's. I think it was like $8, something like that. So very inexpensive. And I have taped my watercolor paper down to this hard board. You can use a clipboard, you can use a cutting board, whatever you have. And you don't even have to do this step. I just like to do it because obviously when you're working with paper and water, even though it's watercolor paper, it can warp a little bit when you're coating on all of these different colors, or layers rather, of water. So I recommend taping it down to a board. This is just blue painter's tape. And this board, I got mine at Simon Says Sting Up. It was $2.95 or something ridiculously inexpensive like that. So, but like I said, you could use a cutting board. You can rummage through your kitchen and find something, I'm sure, if you don't want to purchase a board. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paintbrush, and it's wet from the water from the cup, and I'm just going to wet my paper like so. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is create a palette, so to speak, for our Distress inks. What I do is I save the cellophane wrappers that my stamp sets come in, and I use that for my palette. So hopefully I can get this part at least into frame here. So what I do is I take my Distress inks and open them up and turn them over with the ink side facing down, and I rub that onto my palette. Does that make sense? And let me make sure that that's on film there. So see, I have now placed just a little bit of that on my palette. And I'm going to do that with all of my colors. There's the Peacock Feathers. Let me move this out of the way for a moment, and I think this will be better so you can see what I'm doing. Here is the Chipped Sapphire. And then here's the Seedless Preserves. And then finally, we have the black soot. Okay. And I keep my Distress ink cubes out just in case I have to go back and add some more for my painting. Okay, so now I'm going to move the palette aside, and it's going to probably be out of camera, but that's okay because the main focus now is going to be our masterpiece, so to speak. Okay, so I'm first going to dip my paint into, or my paintbrush, which is wet from the water from the cup, into Salty Ocean. And I'm just going to dab this. I'm really not worried too much about where I'm putting it. I'm just kind of trying to coat the paper here with this Salty Ocean color. This is my lightest color, so I'm kind of going to do a good kind of background swooshing with this particular color. And again, it's going to look like a hot mess until the very end, so don't worry about that, okay? That's kind of normal. You want it to look ridiculously bad for a while. Now I'm already out of the blue Salty Ocean, so I'm going to put more on my palette here. And dip it back into my water. And then get some more on my brush to darken it up a little bit. The other tool that you're going to want to have handy, especially if you're kind of in a little bit of a rush and you don't want your card to take all day, in other words, if you don't want to have to wait for the paint to dry in between colors, is to have a heat gun ready. So throughout this video, it's going to get a little loud because I'm going to be drying this in between layers of color. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this, and it helps sometimes to kind of lift your board up and let the watercolor, the paint, just kind of move about freely. This will also help the colors from mixing too much and getting that kind of brown or muddy kind of look. So this drawing technique works for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of different reasons to do it, not just that you're in a rush. And when it dries and kind of drips, it just has that really cool watercolor look to it, which I really, really love. And let me apologize too, I'm breaking this up into two different videos. This first video is going to be the background, and the second part is going to be coloring the little critters. But this particular video is probably going to be a little on the long side. It's not hard or complicated to do these galaxy backgrounds, but it does take a little bit of time with the drawing in between and such, so I apologize for the length of the video. So now I'm taking my paintbrush that I've cleaned off in my water cup. I'm dipping it into the Peacock Feathers, and I'm just dabbing that in random places. I'm not blending it. I'm just kind of dabbing it into just a couple different places. I'm also out of it again on my palette, so I'm going to rub some more from my little ink cube back onto my palette, and I'm going to add just a little bit more of the Peacock Feathers to my paper here. Okay, now I'm going to dry it. And it does help to move that board around because, as you can see, I have some droplets here that are kind of moving around, and I want to get them to move a little bit better because it just creates that really cool watercolor effect. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my darkest blue color, which is Chipped Sapphire. So I've cleaned my brush, and I'm getting some of that Chipped Sapphire, and I'm literally just dabbing it on. I'm getting some of the ink on my paintbrush, and I'm dabbing. No secret to this at all. I'm just, no secret technique, nothing. I'm just dabbing it onto my paper here. And by the way, I cut this paper. I knew that I wanted my, my Galaxy panel here to take up the entire front of a card base, an A2 size card base, so 5.5 by 4 1/4. So I cut this watercolor paper just slightly larger than that, 1/4 inch each direction, to allow for the tape. So this will be very easy to cut down to a regular card front. So I'm just drawing the Chipped Sapphire with my heat tool. And again, this is looking ridiculously bad, right? It's kind of supposed to. As I did several attempts with this, and I'm thinking as I'm going along, this is looking horrible, this is not working. But I promise you it does. Now I'm going back and I'm going to add some more of the Peacock Feather just to get where and I'm just dabbing it over where I've already placed it. The purpose for that is to just brighten up that color a little bit. I'm going to do the same with the Chipped Sapphire. which you'll see in just a moment. So I've dabbed just a little bit of that turquoise greenish color. The whole point of the night sky or the galaxy background is that you want it to have kind of a lot of different colors in it, because the night sky, particularly those perfect nights if you're out stargazing or whatever, just have so many beautiful colors in them, and you kind of want to capture that in your card with your watercoloring. It's just kind of a fun technique to do. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in, and I'm actually going to add some more of the Chipped Sapphire to my palette, because I want to do a lot of this color, a lot more than I already have. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and dip it into my Chipped Sapphire, and then daub it back over where I've already placed it, just to get it darker. And I'm going to add it to a few more places too, I think, where there's some white spaces here. So we'll get it at the top here, on the side. There we go. And again, there is honestly no magic to what I'm doing, no secret. I'm taking this paintbrush and dabbing the color down. That's all I'm doing. I'm not really painting with air quotes around it, you know what I mean? I'm just taking the color and dabbing it down. Now I'm going to take my heat tool again and dry this as best I can. I'm trying to go quick for purposes of the video, but I also do want to show you how I did this, just in case, you know, you want to create something similar. And again, I am no expert. I say this in all of my videos. I'm not saying this is how you should do it or must do it or the right way to do it. There is no right way to do anything, in my opinion, when it comes to art. This is just how I do it. So if you like how I do it and you want to give it a try, I want to make sure I show you how I do it. With all the steps in it, so you can recreate it if you're interested. Okay, so now sorry guys, I'm still fighting this awful cold. Now I'm going to reach in with my paint and get the Seedless Preserves, because who doesn't like a little purple in their night sky? And I'm just kind of dabbing this on top of some of the color I've already laid down, and also squeezing it into some of the white spaces as well. And I can already tell I'm going to need some more on my palette here. So I'm going to open my cube and just put some more down on my palette. And I'm saying palette, remember, it's it's just a cellophane wrapper from a stamp set. But I do keep all of those for this technique. Now they do make actual palettes that are relatively inexpensive. I know American Crafts sells one. So if you don't have empty stamp packets around, or you want more of an official one, you hop over to Simon Says Stamp. I know that they carry it. And a lot of crafters use that. I just was trying to save some money. So I just kind of decided to start saving up my wrappers. And it works just as well. Okay, so now I've added, you can see there, I've added all that pretty purple color. And I'm going to kind of lift my board to get these droplets to spread and dry. I'm trying to show this in camera as best that I can. But hopefully you are getting the idea. So as you're drying, if you put on a little bit, you know, a lot of water like I have, you'll have these runny droplets, which is kind of what I was going for, quite frankly, because I really like that look. I kind of want it to look like I had watercolor paints out and was doing this with, you know, artistic abandon, so to speak. That probably sounds really nerdy, but I think I've mentioned in other videos before, I am definitely not an artist. I can't even draw stick figures. So anytime I get to kind of pretend that I'm artistic is really exciting for me, and I have a lot of fun with it. So, and there are ways to do this with actual watercolor paints too, and I'm going to do a video on that soon because I had so much fun playing with watercolor paints. I really did get to feel like an artist. So now the last step is I'm going to take the black soot, and I'm going to take the black, and I don't want to coat it completely in black, but I just kind of want to put it all around because that's what's going to give us the real night sky look. So I'm taking my black, and I'm definitely putting it all around the corners first, and since I cut this a little bit large to accommodate the tape, I'm going to want to kind of come in from all the corners as well, just to kind of frame this with the blackness of what a night sky would look like. So I'm dabbing this around all of the corners, And then I'm going to go in and kind of fill in the white space and dab it just slightly on top of some of these colors that I've already laid down. And this is looking really, really, really pretty, I think. And wait until the end when we put the quote-unquote stars on with the white paint and some of the other paints I'm going to show you. It really looks fantastic in my opinion. I just love this technique. I almost thought I wasn't going to be brave enough to try this, let alone film it, but when I found out how easy it actually is, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to share this with people, because if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that's the honest truth, because again, I'm so not artistic at all. And I can do this and actually be proud of it, so it's pretty cool. So I'm almost done here. I'm just going to get a little bit more black in some of these crevices. Okay, that looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this really quickly. And I'm going to lift it up here to make sure it's as dry as it can be. I'm going to chase these droplets around a little bit here. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to take, before I make a mess, I'm going to take the palette that I had used to kind of blend my colors and mix them with water and throw that away in my trash can here, because otherwise I will absolutely have my finger in that and make a huge mess. Okay, so this is kind of what it's looking like right now. So now we have to add the final little part, and then we'll let this dry and I will catch you on a next part 2 of the video. So next we want to add some stars, and I'm going to use some white acrylic paint. This happens to be Craft Smart. I got it at Michael's. It's 97 cents. It's super cheap. I'm going to take an acrylic block and squirt just a little bit of this white paint there. I'm going to take a smaller paintbrush. This is very inexpensive, and just dip it in some water and get quite a bit of water moving around on this white paint on top of this acrylic block, and then I'm going to flick it off of the block onto my background. So here we go. This always makes me nervous because you want it to look great, but it's gonna be fun. Don't be nervous like me. Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna flick it. And don't get too crazy or you'll get it all over your workstation. Ask me how I know that. So just kind of do it very slowly. And that's another reason why I like having this little board here, because it doesn't, you know, it's okay if it gets paint on it or what have you. Okay, let me get just a little bit more water and just a few more splatters here, and that will be good for the white. Okay, now the other thing that I wanted to show you that I added to my final card, and let me bring over the final card one more time. This will show up better in the photographs, which will be on my blog, and I'll have a link to my blog in the description section of this video, but it might not show up as great on the video, but I have mixed in this galaxy background. I have some flecks that aren't white. They aren't from the acrylic paint. They're silvery and gold shimmery. Silver and gold shimmers that really make a nice added pop. And by the way, look how different these galaxy backgrounds look. Here's the original card. Here's the one that we just did on camera. So every time you do this, it's going to look a little different. And I love that about this technique. So you can make, in other words, you can make several cards with the same, you know, the same, what's the word I'm looking for? The same, I guess, card design, but they're going to come out a little different because that's just the nature of painting. So I'm going to take these paints, which are, they are Gansai Tambi, I think that's how you pronounce it, and this is the Starry Colors palette, and they look like this. They're very inexpensive. They are gorgeous, and these come in several different colors, starting with white gold and going all the way down to blue gold. And I'm just going to take the same paintbrush, I've cleaned it. This is the same small one that I had used for the white acrylic paint. I've cleaned it, and I'm going to get this white gold color nice and wet. This is a very pigmented paint, so you've got to get it really wet to get the pigment flowing. So I'm going to take this on my paintbrush, and I'm going to stick my finger out and tap this paintbrush against my finger, and it's going to splatter. Do you see how that's splattering? And it is so pretty. It's hard to, again, it's hard to see on camera, but it just adds this gorgeous pearlescent shimmer to some silvery pearlescent shimmer to some of these stars. and it's gorgeous. It's stunning. And then I decided I would do just a couple little globs of gold as well, because sometimes those super bright stars can look almost gold. So I just chose to use this yellow gold color. And again, you have to get it nice and wet to get the pigment color, to get the pigment in the inks, in the paint, to start to get wet and just spread. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to flick it onto my finished little galaxy background here. Let me get just a little bit more up top here. Okay, great. So that's it for part 1 of this video, and this is what the galaxy background looks like right now. It is so super cute. And here's the finished card. And as you can see from the finished card, we're going to be adding some constellations, we're going to do the critters, and we're going to do the grass in the next video. I'll show you how to do all of that in the next video, which hopefully will be up today as well, at the latest tomorrow, so keep your eyes out for that. But here is our galaxy background that we just did today on camera, and I just love how different it looks. Every time you do this, it's going to look different, so that's super cool. All right, guys, so that's it for today. Thank you or for this video, rather. Thank you so much for stopping by and for watching, and I hope you guys will give this a try, and make sure to come back for part 2, where I'll color the critters and we'll do the constellations and the grass. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.